Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm your host, Brian Scott. Today, we have a set of fantastic quote channelings that address Jesus as the Wanderer or Starseed. In the Raw Contact, the channeling that formulated the Law of One, a wanderer is someone that reincarnates back into Earth, that had moved on to 4th, 5th, or 6th density. Dolores Cannon would refer to a wanderer as a starseed. In that contact, they said that Jesus was a wanderer, stating a wanderer of the highest suboctave of 4th density who could have gone on to 5th density, but chose to return to 3rd in order to perform the mission of sharing the love vibration in as pure a manner as possible, eventually culminating in martyrdom in the event of the crucifixion. They claim later in the channeling that now Jesus studies in the 5th density and will not return except as a member of the Confederation, occasionally speaking through a channel. They made sure to clarify his name was Yeshua, and the discussion of Jesus that we have in, for instance, Neville Goddard is entirely different. That's not a character in history. That's something within you. But Ra and Quo bring a historical perspective to this that I find very interesting. And in a very recent channeling in May, LL Research expanded upon the concept of Jesus as wanderer, and I found it to be very fascinating. We begin with the channeling on May 11th, 2022. I am Quo, and greet each in love and in light this evening. We are with this instrument and with this group in the desire to respond to queries to us, which may move each seeker of truth further along the path of a spiritual journey. We would remind each that we are your brothers and sisters of the Confederation of Planets in the service of the one infinite Creator. We all work together to see the philosophy of the Confederation upon your planet at this time, that there may be more growth of the spiritual variety among the peoples of your planet. And we would ask our perennial favor that you use our words and concepts in any way that has meaning to you. And if any do not serve you well at this time, then maybe at another time they will be more helpful to you. So leave those behind now. At this time, we would ask if there's a query with which we may begin through this instrument. Yes, Quo. We have one from Jay who writes, in a session on January 7th, 1990, you said that the entity we refer to as Jesus Christ has lived again and again on a planet after planet and has helped many, many civilizations. Understanding the need for you not to unduly influence our free will decisions related to Christianity or Christians on Earth, can you share with us some stories of how the entity we know as Jesus incarnated on other planets? And do they often involve crosses and or crucifixions? I am Quo, and I'm aware of the query, my brother. You have asked a query which is fascinating to us, as it is the path of the martyr, the path of the one who lays down his life for those that are in darkness and those who need to see the light. This entity is what you would refer to as a wanderer who has incarnated many times upon many 3rd density planets for the purpose of sharing, most especially, the love of the one infinite Creator with whom it is sought to teach and to become a way-shower, or through many incarnations that it chose as a specialty of its beingness. This type of service is somewhat unlike what most wanderers offer as their own particular specialties when they answer the call of a 3rd density planet to serve in some manner to provide more light, more love, and illumination to the population of that planet, so that the veil of forgetting of the 3rd density experience may be in some fashion penetrated and allow more of the nature of the unified creation to be perceived by those whom the wanderer seeks to aid, if it is able to remember its mission within the troubled times and nature of the 3rd density experience. The one known as Jesus was able, many times, to answer a call from a 3rd density planet that was dwelling in what you might see as metaphysical darkness, Such a population is at the beginning stages of determining the purpose of your life experience, and in many cases is not able to find a clear path of understanding the nature of the personal and group incarnated energy expenditures, as you may call them. It is in such a situation that one such as Yeshua, as he is most often known in the metaphysical realms, is able to offer itself as a way shower, as one who has traveled this path many times itself, and who wishes to share the fruits of this journey with those who are just beginning the journey. This oftentimes results in what you may call various degrees of sacrifice, which is shown or represented by what you have called the cross, the intersection of one direction upward into the heavens with the intersection of the horizontal plane of the earth that is able to be transcended by those who understand and practice the principles of service to others to the extent that they give all that they have, the life experience, the joy, the sorrows, the purpose of being, in order to exemplify the sacrifice of the earthly perceptions and even the earthly life for the one known as Yeshua, so that others may see there is more to the life experience than has ever been perceived before becoming aware of the teachings of the one known as Yeshua. Therefore, we can say that this entity has incarnated at various times upon many third-density planets that have been able to receive these basic spiritual or metaphysical teachings, that the life experience is that which is meant, in the positive sense, to be dedicated to or given over to the serving of others that may be seen to be brothers and sisters of the one seeking to serve. This exemplar known as Yeshua has been able to practice this presence of the one infinite creator as a means by which to perform what you would call miracles of healing, of teaching, of giving inspiration to those who do not know that there is a greater reality that each is destined to experience upon the spiritual path that the one known as Yeshua has laid out before all aspirants or followers of the creed of the love of the one infinite creator, being the primary creative force within the one infinite creator and within each entity that moves and lives and has his being within that one creator. At this time, we would transfer this contact to the one known as Gary. Gary channeling, we are those known to you as the principle of Quo. We blend our energies with this circle of seeking, aware of the conditions right now surrounding you, sunny and pleasant, filled with bird song that registers on the instrument's ears, through the windows along with that clever second density entity known as the squirrel, currently dining just outside the window next to that circle of seeking. We would be happy to speak to a query through this instrument. We are those of Quo. We have one from P. Quo who writes, after the adept has realized the divine nature of its being and no longer identifies with the body, but rather as a soul utilizing the body to transcend body identification, to what extent does care for the physical body and the interactions of chemicals within the body impact an adept's polarity? Thank you for your service, Quo. We are those known to you as Quo, and we appreciate this query, which could be either simplified or explored at some length, as it bears meaning on various levels of your journey. To transcend, as the questioner used in their question, is in a sense to rise above some former level which may have contained or confined the identity. Often it is used to convey that one is no longer shackled or hampered by that former level, or at least operating upon that former level because they have risen to a new level. And indeed, the upward moving spiritual evolutionary journey is one of transcendence. As the entity transcends one limitation after the other, and with the gradual discovery of things as all things, the container, shall we say, which holds the identity gradually grows larger in scope, more inclusive in scope, and in this process the entity may be less impacted or limited by that which had impacted or limited the entity previously. And as with all evolution, the relationship to the mind changes and the relationship to the body changes. What is the appropriate relationship to the body and its impact upon polarity? The body, as many within your culture could have it, is not to be demoted upon the spiritual journey. Certainly, the yellow ray physical complex can be understood to be a manifestation of limited duration upon your journey. That which is made of the clay of the earth, which is born through the construction in the womb, and will eventually cease viability and return to your earth in one form or another. But the body is not a stumbling block to be overcome. It is an integral manifestation of the self, which particularly in your illusion serves as a teaching tool reflecting back to the self where its blockages, imbalances, and learning may lie for that catalyst. And it is often this way, which is not fully processed and integrated by the mind. Ra likened it to the Athanor within which the soul experiences the fires, the forging fires of third density that forge not only the shape of the identity, but serves to transmute that which is dense into that which is fine. The body will undergo upgrades, shall we say, becoming closer ally upon the journey, giving more ability for the entity to express its beingness, to become a vehicle of giving and receiving love, and further granting opportunities and abilities for the entity to polarize its consciousness. While work in consciousness may be done in solitary state with the body complex that is unmoving, important and helpful and powerful work, we may add, it is through the body complex that one shows up in the illusion and is visible to others and impacts others in one's environment. The body gives infinitely varied opportunities to perform this service and this interaction and to use the fruits of this illusion in order to polarize. To exist within your illusion requires this body complex. The self may transcend it such that physical suffering becomes but a sensation, not to be suppressed or ignored, but understood by the intelligence of the self for that message which it offers the self. At the same time, physical suffering does not become the source of an all-encompassing identity. The self and its advancing polarity and evolution may experience the feedback mechanisms of the body, including that of pain, from a more detached standpoint that, without being reactive and with being loving, may more clearly see and embrace the workings of the body as the friend, as that which is designed to support the journey and the polarization. This does not necessarily denote that the suffering of a physical nature will cease as the entity progresses along its path, for there are a great number of reasons which may precipitate suffering of a physical nature, which on one end of the spectrum may be purely of a genetic or environmental chemical in nature, and at the other end may be an outgrowth of the entity's pre-incarnational programming, and as we have discussed, the processing or lack thereof, its catalyst upon its journey. So it's not that in transcendence, physical pain and suffering end, but rather that the entity makes more efficient use of that stimulus and learns or teaches itself how to continue shining regardless of the physical pain, how to continue to develop its focus upon how it may use each moment in service to others, which may involve precisely that pain, as the entity who experiences physical limitation of one sort or another can act as teacher to many in the demonstration of its capacity for radiance in a limited form, or in its capacity to overcome that limitation in order to achieve a desired result. This instrument is given the name Helen Keller as one such very bright example who has been a light to many despite the physical limitations. As those of Ra have said, the entity which has chosen the positive polarity purely shall not have a variant incarnational experience. Even for the one who is upon the path of transcendence, they may be dependent upon their unique configuration, and the desires and use of will and faith may undergo various sorts of limitations or hardship or suffering, including of the bodily type. So as we were saying, the raising of the locus of awareness may have as benefit for the body the more efficient use and comprehension of bodily catalyst as a teaching mechanism, and the use of that which occurs for that inextricable component of the mind-body-spirit complex as a vehicle for service to others, and ultimately upon the mystical journey, that which occurs to or within or for of the body may be pointed toward the seeking of the Creator. As this light of a time, space, or metaphysical nature is more fully inhabited by the advancing entity, then the vehicle of clay which you inhabit will respond also accordingly, becoming lighter. That may indeed result in healing, as the source of the misapprehension of the Creator within the mind is itself balanced and healed. That may result in other processes within the body which may be perceived to be of a helpful nature to the self, including increased clarity upon the chemical level, the decrease in that which is seen as a toxin upon the operation of the body, increase perhaps in energy or strength within the body, and certain old limitations are released. But we would stress again that physical suffering should in no way connote lack of development, or that an entity is earlier upon the spectrum as compared to the entity much further advanced upon the same spectrum. Physical suffering can indeed certainly indicate lessons as of yet unlearned, but not necessarily. The highly advanced entity may program for certain bodily limitations for the purpose of taking the entity to where it could not have gone, or may have had great difficulty going otherwise. The trial, the test, the tribulation that catalyzes and pushes the entity into higher and broader understanding. In any case, you within third density are unable to gain the exact measure of where upon the path that you are situated due to your veil of forgetting and the constant mirage of confusing stimulus that reaches your senses and your thinking. We always would encourage compassion for self and other, and time spent in meditation, in silence specifically, that the true nature of the body and the mind may become more evident to the awareness within and of the cells. We thank one known as P for this question, and we now transfer our contact to the one known as Trisha. We are others known to you as Quo. Yes, Quo. Jay asked, can you share with us a way to visualize fourth density vibrations streaming into planet Earth at this space-time and time-space? It seems that it would be helpful to have some way of visualizing this if possible when doing Gaia meditations or personal meditations. And do they align at all with what we see as the magnetic field of planet Earth? We are those of Quo, and we are aware of the query, my brother. We appreciate this query, for the intention behind it is one of purity and one of seeking to be of service to the planet as a whole. For any seeker wishing to be of service in some way to another self or the planet or the Creator, the practice of visualization can be a powerful tool. The energetic investment, if you will, can create a potent motivator or instigator for that which the seeker is attempting to manifest before them. Visualization in regards to this specific query is not a topic by which we feel we can give explicit direction, for each entity must feel within their heart a unique way, see a unique image. When meditating upon the healing of the planet, the transition of the planet into fourth density, and essentially any other small or large-scale event, we do not say that to be diminishing of the intention or to sway the seeker in a different direction. What we can offer, however, is the suggestion of trusting the intuition. Each entity on this planet is immensely unique. There are those who may call themselves left brain or logical, mathematical, regimented in their thought processes, and there are those who identify as right brain, perhaps more creative, emotional, and less regimented in their thought processes. Therefore, what may come to each seeker when going into silence in hopes of healing and aiding the planet as it moves from this third density into the fourth may differ. We suggest the practice of discernment and the trust in the self's intuition, because what is important more than the specific visual image is the intention behind it. Dear seeker, if the intention, the energetic investment that underlies the physical practice of visualizing is an authentic intention, a true desire, a pure hope, then the vehicle by which that appears to the entity in these moments of silence is but a sign of recognition within the self and the higher self that the message is being sent, if you will, that the intention is being let out from the heart out through the illusion. If one is sure of what to visualize, we would suggest that the self simply go into the silence, state and focus the attention on the intention, allowing what wants to be seen and felt and said arise naturally without judgment, sitting merely as an observer to the ebbs and flows that exist within that practice of silence. Through that kind of experimentation, the seeker may find resonance with a specific image or thought process or energetic vibe that feels conducive to the sending of the intention outward. It is that resonance, my friends, that can direct the seeker and comfort the seeker in knowing that their call and desire is being heard, is being seen, is being integrated. This instrument is feeling extremely fatigued and struggling to maintain a strong contact, a strong focus at this time. She wishes to apologize if she lost the plot and hopes she was able to act as sufficient channel to the first portion of this query. She feels as though attempting to answer the second could allow for detunement of her as instrument given her weakened mental vitality at this time. The instrument wishes to apologize, and we wish to comfort this instrument and let her know that we appreciate this opportunity to work through her in service to the one infinite creator. And without delaying any further, we will take our leave of this instrument and transfer our contact to the one known as Kathy. We are those of Quo. We are those of Quo, and we are now with this instrument. We may ask if there is a further query at this time. Yes. Quo M would like to know, what are the metaphysical implications, if any, of insomnia, given that sleep is our connection to our subconscious? Quo, we understand the query, my brother. We speak to this question of a bodily concern in terms of sleep and adequate sleep. We wish to say first that this is an area of concern for the health of an entity for its fullest expression in body, mind, and spirit. Therefore, the idea of sleep or insomnia indicating lack of sleep or less sleep than is considered normal also relates to all the levels of being of an entity for its fullest expression in body, mind, and spirit. Therefore, the idea of sleep or insomnia indicating lack of sleep or less sleep than is considered normal also relates to all the levels of being of an entity, body, mind, and spirit. They all work together, especially in this state called sleep. For when an entity will sleep in what you call normal terms, falling asleep, remaining asleep, allowing the brainwaves, as you call them, to fluctuate into productive levels to produce appropriate, restful, creative, and deep and dreaming sleep, are beneficial to the entity during this restful phase during your day. The mental and spiritual aspects of sleep, in addition to the bodily aspect, are apparent when you consider that during what is termed normal sleep patterns, the entity's mental and spiritual parts of its being are operant in self-directed healing processes. This includes the working out of issues, questions, or problems in the dream state or with other entities on the spiritual plane during the time of sleep, so that in the following hours, days, or weeks, other segments of your time, such questions or problems may be worked out through the pattern that was adopted or accepted during the sleep state on a different level than the conscious level that entities have during their waking hours. Other entities in consciousness, whether in spirit form or in living form on your planet contemporaneously with an entity, may be contacted and communicated with in a most helpful and productive way, commencing healing or communication of a comforting nature, resolving questions into satisfactory answers and solutions which are consciously or perhaps semi-consciously realized in the waking moments of the following day or days, when it is time to put such solutions into practice. This brief discussion of some of the activities which can take place during sleep should begin to paint a picture of why sleep is important to the body, mind, spirit, of which your query points to. Therefore, we may respond to the query directly by saying sleep is important to the health of each entity for these reasons. It is supportive of health, well-being, spiritual growth, maintenance of health, and happiness for an entity to have such sleep. We may at this point, however, in our discussion with you upon this topic, that the amount of sleep, the quality of sleep, the conditions of sleeping may vary greatly between and among individual entities. One entity may require 4 hours of sleep, as you call it, per night cycle, or between 4 and 5 hours, or perhaps even less. Some entities may prefer to have a lower amount of sleep during the night cycle and refresh body, mind, and spirit using sleep in a nap, as you call it, during the day, so that the amount of sleep and the quality of sleep would be appropriate for that entity. Other entities may want or need or require a longer duration of sleep, which could help the entity's mind and brainwaves cycle through more sleep activities, such as described earlier. Yielding those productive results, it is unknown what is the right amount of sleep except for one entity to explore for themselves. One individual entity may feel a lower amount is adequate, and others may feel differently. It may be wise to work with those experts close to an entity's personal life who are knowledgeable and experienced in service to the health of the entity to determine what may be the best amount of sleep for a particular entity. You might call these experts a doctor or a psychology professional, nurses, other practitioner names, healers. Again, this is an area for each individual entity to explore. There are many ways to determine what is right and best for each entity. One can also read about this subject, learn as much as possible, go within in meditation, understand what feels right for that individual's experience. In terms of your particular query regarding insomnia, we reflect upon this term as meaning trouble sleeping, difficulty sleeping, attempting to sleep but not achieving this sleep state, or perhaps not sustaining the sleep state. If any of these terms or expressions reflect what the query was asking about, we would say that again, educating oneself through reading or talking with such experts, as we mentioned, to determine the causes of lack of sleep would be wise given its importance to the health of the entity. But this must be balanced with the knowing from within. Perhaps there are reasons to be discovered going within oneself why such difficulties and sleep are occurring. There could be experiences and entities going through that are causing such difficulty to sleep. In such times upon your planet, some entities feel, especially those who are highly sensitive, the vibrations of uncertainty, of conflict, of anxiety over circumstances or events in the larger consciousness of the earth plane. In the highly sensitive ones, the awareness of these things may perhaps temporarily disrupt an entity's ability to achieve a satisfying sleep cycle we have described with its positive results. To this, we may say that just as in meditation, an entity may go deep within for answers which may help calm the spirit and the mind and the heart of the sensitive ones. We may also say that to come higher, also above the clouds of the earth plane, above into the light and love of the Creator, into the higher, lighter vibrations of above, as you would call it, leaving beneath those vibrations of difficulty or concern, leaving them below, even temporarily on the earth plane, to take one's spirit and my higher to feel the peace and tranquility of a higher space and time that is eternally free of such difficulties. Just as deep within self, an entity may find that deep, comforting peace of feeling the Creator deep within the self. Reaching for these connections, especially for the sensitive ones, we say if entities are so inclined, may help in times of lust, sleep, or lack of sleep termed insomnia. Also to know all entities, sensitive ones as well, knowing at all times you are ensconced in the light and love of the one infinite Creator. Ever and always that keeps in that light and love in which you are always held, waking moments and sleeping moments may become easier, more complex, more restful, and more comforting. At this time, we would transfer our contact to the one known as Jim. We are those of Quo. I am Quo and am again with this instrument. We thank you, each and every one of you, for your fastidious dedication to the receiving and speaking of the concepts and words that we have used this evening to provide answers to the queries put before us. We thank you for sharing the very nature of your being as a portion of the foundation for each concept and word, for we build upon that which is a sure foundation, the dedication to sharing the philosophy of the Confederation of Planets in the service of the one infinite Creator. We share that desire with you. We walk with you. We talk with you. We thank you again for inviting our presence, and at this time we shall take our leave of this instrument and this group. We leave you always in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator, of which we are all a part. Adonai Vasu Boragas. This concludes this particular channeling. There's some real nuggets here that I found super interesting that have added to what we know about Quo. We see that Jesus didn't just incarnate in third density upon our planet, but has done it on many third density planets. Perhaps over the last 2,000 years, he's maybe done it several times. It's an interesting and fascinating concept. If you had come from fifth density with your knowledge and light and decided to come back to third density with the power that Jesus has, imagine going to multiple planets and what they've experienced with his teachings. To learn more about what Quo has to say about Jesus, check out my episode on Quo on Yeshua, and there's a whole bunch of interesting details they give about Jesus' life that I found super fascinating. There are some additional questions that I found very resonant. I want to know how to visualize fourth density light. They didn't really answer particularly, but I do think it's important. And they clarify here that visualization is an important way to be of service. Every day, if you don't quite know what to do, you can meditate and imagine the love light coming through your heart and spreading throughout the whole planet, aiding, helping, and serving those that need it. This is a powerful thing. So at least for a couple of minutes today, just imagine sending your love and light to everyone. When they ask how to do this, trust your instincts. The more you do it, the better you'll get at it. Go into silence and imagine this amazing love light flowing through you, flowing to the things we want. As I've mentioned repeatedly on the podcast, we now have this amazing access to a new light photon that is right now within you and all around you that you can use if you so choose. It is much more complex and dense with information. It may be a little bit different than what you're used to, but when you access it and send it out, it is transformative and transcendent. I found the last question to be also quite interesting, acknowledging that when we go to sleep, we can sometimes struggle, especially if we're highly sensitive, when we're aware of the energies of the world. And I've had this many times. I've sensed things that were happening in the world that I read about in the news the next day. And so it's important to protect our auras and continue to send out the love light. It's also interesting that they said here that you can get away with 4 hours of sleep if that's you. Some people can get away with less or more sleep, but it's important. In any case, you can find all episodes of The Reality Revolution at therealityrevolution.com. Right now, I am sending love and light through my voice, through my heart, to everybody that's listening. I hope you can feel it. I hope you can feel it filling your soul, your aura, your body, your home. Spread this love light to everyone you see. I hope you have just the most fantastic day. And thank you so much for the opportunity to share your day with you. Welcome to the Reality Revolution.